Okay, Ed, you have to share all about the picture hack.
Okay, so back in the day, way back in the day when I was selling for a living, we used to have like calculators. You know, they were like little calculators, and they came in little folders, and you put your business cards in them. I mean, some of the folks out there don't even know what I'm talking about, right? but what we would do is we didn't have iPads, we didn't have all these fancy tools that we have now. We had these little pocket things that they're little calculators went in, and it opened it up so one side was a little slip for the business cards to go in, and the other side was you would sit at the table and you would do your math. I had always gotten in the habit of calculating all my termite pricing in front of the customer. I just didn't like to do it in the car and then come back in. And I would encourage all of you to, when you're putting your graphs together and you're putting your pricing together, to try to do it in front of the customer. It can be a bit intimidating at first, but I promise you, you don't lose any contact with the customer when you do it that way. And I know there's a bunch of guys and gals out there that have success by putting it all together in the truck or in the car before they go in to, after they do the inspection, they put it all together and they come back in ready to go. I was always wanting to do it in front of the customer so I didn't lose any contact. As simple as, you know how simple my mind works. I didn't want them talking about me, right? While I was out in the car, like, what's he doing? What's going on out there? Oh, this is going to be a lot of money. So I was always tried to be very conversational with them when I was putting their pricing together. What I would say when I walked back in after doing the inspection, I would simply say, Sonia, is there a place at the table that I could pull these numbers together and connect all my dots, right? So, with my graph. So what that did is that put me back at the kitchen table. So I didn't end up doing proposals, on the trunk of a car or sitting on a couch in the living room, because I would say, is there a table I can use to pull all my numbers together and get this ready for you? And they would, most of the time they would join me, right? They would come along with me and they'd sit at the table. And I'd gotten pretty adept at putting my pricing together. So while we were sitting there, I was having conversations while I'm doing all my work. Well, my calculator was a really good tool for me, because inside that calculator, when I flipped that thing open to start to do my calculations and add up my lineal feet, I intentionally, and this is going to sound a little shaky, but I intentionally made sure that the picture that I carried in my wallet on the side where the business cards were, those little tiny pictures you can get, that picture would slide out onto the table, and there would be my 4 little toe-headed kids. I've got, as you know, I have the triplet girls, and their brothers, a couple years older than them. So that picture would fall out of my calculator wallet like quasi-intentionally, and it would stir conversation, right? So then we had something to talk about while I was going through my calculations, and it was like a pretty picture. So the hack that I'm talking about is something that maybe you can't replicate anymore because you don't do it that way by calculating your prices, but you do use these tools, right?
That's right.
So what picture do you have on your iPhone, right? So now it's not 4 of my kids, these are 3 of my grandchildren, right? So when my phone turns on and I'm sitting and I want to show somebody a picture on my phone, I say, Sonia, look at my phone. Here are pictures of my grandkids. So oh, those babies are beautiful, blah, 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 right?
That's right.
So you get that. So you could do the same thing with your iPad, right? So when I turn my iPad on, this is the picture you see. This is the original 6 Donahues, right? That's my bride and my 4 kids, grown up. And, this is probably 10 years old before they got married and started having babies. So, again, it faded away. So what it does is it stirs conversation.
Yeah.
What drives me crazy is that we have our folks out there that they have like Orkin, or they have the Division logo on there. When they open up their iPad in front of the customer, because if you think about the iPad, when you start to show customers, your presentation on your iPad, what if the first picture they saw was your granddaughter, your dog, your children, your spouse, giving you something to try to establish some common ground on. So that's just that hack. Again, probably has nothing to do with sales, but it's allowing them to see the human side of you, and it's better than the Rollins. I think the Rollins thing comes downloaded. It's a pretty simple fix. You just go out to settings and you go to wallpaper and you pull one of your own pictures in there. Just think about the opportunity you're missing by not showing them your grandbabies or your children or your spouse or your dog or your cat. Think about the opportunity that we're missing. Again, probably way too in the minutia, but you know me, that's where I go with this stuff. I think about everything that can impact the sale or the potential to impact the sale. And quite frankly, I'm not saying that those 4 tow-headed kids sold a bunch of business for me, but they knew I was a family man trying to support a family. So when I got to the end and I talked to them, I said, this is what I do for a living. This is how I feed my family. That's why I think you should pay more money, and that's why I choose to work here. It resonated more because they'd seen the silly little picture of them 4 kids, and we talked about them. You know, it gets them, if they've got grandchildren, if they've got children, if there's kids running around the house, think about the impact that just a simple screenshot on your iPad or your phone can stir a little bit of conversation to get some common ground. Does that make any sense at all? Or am I just crazy?
Yeah, what a great way to build that rapport.
Yeah,
Good job.
just automatic, right? Now, I'm not saying you change the picture, but you know, I tend to rotate them out a little bit. But just think about trying that and fixing your phone to do that. Again, I don't know if it's going to sell you any more business. I'm convinced it sold me business, but then again, my mind's a little warped.
Yeah. Well, and it could be a reminder of your wonderful family when you open up the phone when you're getting ready to propose somebody.
Maybe that's it. I got to feed these 4 kids,
Yeah.
right? You know, so maybe that
Work
was
hard.
it. Maybe that was it. But no,
job.
really cool. So yeah, just try it and have some fun with it. And tell me if I'm crazy. You know, shoot me a text, send me an email.
There you go.
That's all I got.
Sounds good.